Thank you very much for joining for this week's edition of the Chroma Market Roundtable. I'm joined today by just Osborne Purdue, it looks like, which is totally fine. I think there's a few guys on holidays. Luke's been on holidays for about 3 months, and Victor is on the beach somewhere. So yeah, we're talking about BTC. We had pull up in my notes here. So yeah, we're back to 64K. We're back to this composite POC, and let me share my screen so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. I see Jonesy's just joined as well. Welcome, Jonesy. We're back to this composite POC. We're back to this daily EMA 50. We're approximately at the middle of this range. I mean, you can draw your range back to July. You can draw your range back to June. We are very much in the center of things here. For me, it's a little bit of a don't diddle in the middle type scenario. We haven't seen either of the two major sweeps that I've been waiting for at these levels. We have not seen the buy side sweep up into the high 60Ks, so up into 68, 69, nor have we seen the sweep of these call them Pikachu lows, if you want, that I have been waiting for what seems like an eternity, but it's only been about a month or so. Would love to see something, as I've said already, would love to see these lows get taken out to look for long ideas. For me, it's a bit difficult. I know Jonesy's already in a long from somewhere down here. For me, it's a little bit difficult to do that when we have all this juicy sell side liquidity that has been untaken. That's just my style of trading. I prefer to wait for the sweep. But again, that's just a personal preference. Likewise, for big shorts, I would much prefer to see some kind of price action develop around the range extreme. But for me, yeah, this is a very simple one. It is a case of don't diddle in the middle, because the high probability plays are to be found at one extreme or the other. Jonesy, curious to know what your take is on that, seeing as I just mentioned you, and I just mentioned your long that you're up about. You're up about a fucking mortgage on
in the case,
yeah.
But yeah, can I share my screen?
Oh,
right, there we go. Yes, so long last Friday. Was kind of interested to see how it would play out over the weekend. It's also one sec. Let me just this stretched because I had the other monitor hooked up. Did that fix it? Nope. Okay. Apologies, technical issues. There we go. So yeah, I mean, we had a really nice shark harmonic. Got the reaction at the PCZ. Chat went sideways most of the weekend, and then had the little sell-off early on the end of Sunday. Really strong pump yesterday. So honestly, like here, I think it looks phenomenal. We have true monthly open now, flipped into support. We're back above the H4 200 EMA, and we have a lot of liquidity to the upside. We have equal highs around 65.8. We have more equal highs around 67. Monthly FEG, and an untapped true yearly open that we haven't touched since looks to be about early June. So I'm pretty bullish for a move up towards at least like 68, 69K. Obviously, once we tap into the monthly FEG, I'll monitor potentially close there, but I don't see any reason for downside unless we start losing basically 64K. I think if you start seeing like H4 closes below this, we lose that fair value gap and the EMA, then I would consider closing and just taking the win as it is. But I think for now, just being patient here is going to pay off.
awesome. Yeah, agreed with that. I mean, it's still the summer. We're still what do we have? Almost 2 weeks left in August. Volatility is low, volume is low. There are a lot of guys I see getting chopped up and forcing trades. So yeah, to speak to your point, patience will pay. If you're getting frustrated with this price action, or if you're finding that it's difficult to have a read, especially as we trade here at composite POC maximum chop zone. I do think that there will be higher probability trade areas to come, particularly once the summer ends and we get a little bit of volatility back in the market. Osbrow, what is your read on BTC? What are you looking at in the charts?
Something pretty similar to Jonesy. As I shared in my corner, I think as long as the price does hold the POC here, plus the EMA 200 on H4, which is the black line that you see here, then I think we can get more upside. And when I'm talking about upside, I mean at least fill the imbalance that we do have here. We also formed a supply zone here. So I guess, yeah, if we manage to hold this, then just play basic concepts tied to volume profile. And I'm expecting the value high to be tagged at some point. It's also aligned, if we look at our TPO profile, it's aligned with the naked point of control right here at 65.40. And in case of a pullback, I have my threshold a little bit lower than Jonesy's one. I think we can still go down towards 63.5, 63.6 and be fine. The main reason is we do have that void here and the naked POC of yesterday's session around 63.550. So for now, still slightly bullish. I still think we can go higher, and that patience is good here at the moment. And yeah, it's quite not the trading zone here. It's more like the chop area. So I would advise to stay away if you're not in a position already. Too early to short and probably too late to long. I think it's still possible that we have a flash crash to retest these EMAs during today's session or maybe during Asia session. But yeah, slightly bullish still.
Interesting. So you think we could get a flash crash out of nowhere, effectively, or is that something that you would need to see a catalyst for?
No, not out of nowhere. Simply to follow equities. I mean, equities are looking like this. Nasdaq is looking like this. S&P is looking like this. Nikkei is looking like this. And where are they? Bonds are looking quite bullish. Well, now they're pulling back a bit, but they just hit a record level, 20 years historical level. So yeah, I think BTC can definitely catch up with Nasdaq and crash a little bit, at least to retest one of the levels I mentioned. So either 63.6 or that EMA right here, at least at 63.9. That's why I think a flash crash is possible, simply because equities really look bad at the moment.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, that might be something we talk about a little bit later, specifically with reference to bonds, because it's such an interesting chart to me and such an interesting topic of discussion. But we will come to that later in the chat. Purdue, what has your attention in the BTC chart?
I can show you my chart. Yeah, for me, looking at the higher time frame, we closed the weekly for the first time below the 200 weekly SMA. So for me, I think we can still have some upside, but we haven't been retesting the weekly EMA 13 for 5 weeks since we put in that ugly candle over here. Yeah, I mean, we're in a super tight range. Every time we flip 64.2, I'd say we get some more upside, but then we lose it again. We're exactly at the big pivotal level for me around 64.2. That's why I didn't trade that much. The only thing that stood out for me were some alts, but also not really anything that is like on the higher time frame setting up for a swing long. So yeah, I mean, as long as we're above 63.8, I think we get some more upside towards 65.7, 66K. If we lose 64K or potentially 63.2, we're gonna take out Monday low and potentially back to 60.8. So yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Want to move on now to altcoins. Talking about maybe Link is a good one to look at first of all. And I can share my chart here because this is something that I have been looking at throughout the week. Going back to the weekend, you guys might remember that I shared this chart on Link in my channel. Lots of guys looking for shorts on this thing. It's not always wisest to short the strongest coin on the market or one of the strongest coins on the market. I would say that if you want to trade this, the best thing to do is treat this current price action going back to Saturday night as a range, and then you look for either signs of accumulation or distribution. Signs of accumulation might look, at the moment, I'm saying that it's kind of too early to tell because we're just getting this compression. I would say, if anything, it looks a little bit more cumulative than distributive. But it's too early to tell. I would say if you want to trade this, you should be favoring the long side, looking for signs that this is getting ready to break out here and retest this high. Or potentially you wait for price action to develop up here and look for a retest of this kind of range, whatever you want to call it. You can draw your value area here, your volume profile, and look for that to be your range high. If you want to look for signs of reversal, signs of a breakdown, I would say at least wait for these lows to start breaking, price to break down here, and really showing you signs, showing you intention of it coming all the way back down to this. All this, the consolidation that led to the expansion. I do think that Link will retest 9 at some point. Whether it lays up once more or not, I'm not sure. But if you want to take a trade on this, usually you're better off waiting for the market to tell you where it's going to go and then looking to trade in that direction. Please also bear in mind that you very often see this shit. Okay, so don't assume that just because we start trading up towards the highs of this range here that the breakout is confirmed. You really want to see what the reaction is once we take all that buy side liquidity, because so often it's fucking this breakout fake out type of thing, and we reverse to the other side. So yeah, just it's a bit of a holding pattern here, but this range is quite tradable, I would say. It just depends on which way this price action resolves and how it develops over the coming days. But yeah, if you want to take a short, wait for some signs of weakness first. Wait for some signs of actual distribution at the highs. Curious to know whether anyone else has been trading Link. Obviously, we had this massive push on Saturday, and kind of in a holding pattern since then. Anyone else trading Link?
Oh.
Silence. That's okay. That's okay too. XRP is below $1 for the first time since March. This is a chart that we have looked at a few times in the past. Someone asked me for my thoughts on XRP on stream recently, and I just said I have zero thoughts on this thing. It looks terrible. It looks absolutely atrocious. Really pulling back in a massive way from this high that we put in about a year ago. About 75% down from there. You guys might remember back at the end of 2024, around November when we got that mini alt season, XRP was actually one of the strongest coins in the market. It ran about 7x from that low in just a matter of months, which was kind of crazy. Since then, a little bit of a holding pattern up here, but now retracing the move. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on this coin. I think it's very likely that it comes back down to these kind of 0.8, 0.7, 0.6 levels, but I don't have a strong opinion on it either way. If no one else is looking at XRP, then we can move on. The next one I want to talk about, and this is just we'll reroute to perps in a second. I just want to talk about Ansem because I'm seeing obviously there's a lot of people talking about it. A lot of people are asking me in streams about meme coins, asking me about FOMO, about pump fun, and just wondering whether it's something that people should be trading. Now, I'll give, this is an opinion that it's not going to come as any news to you guys. I've just shared the Ansem chart in the chat, by the way. It looks fantastic. It looks pretty good. This is more of a general comment on meme coin trading and on trading on FOMO app. Again, it's something that I've spoken about at length before. The success stories that you see on your timeline are it's like the top 1% of guys, right? It's typically guys who have either a verifiable edge when it comes to trading this thing, born of experience, born of trenching for thousands and thousands of hours, or else they have some kind of insider line or insider information, right? You're typically not playing a fair game when it comes to meme coin trading. You're typically entering an arena where the odds are hugely stacked against you. And to kind of speak on that a little bit, just looked at some stats this morning. FOMO traders are down $1.26 billion in total. Now, I don't know. I thought that FOMO was a relatively new thing. I think it's only been around for a few months. But yes, FOMO traders are down a total of over $1 billion out of 292,000 wallets, 292,531 exactly. Only 6% are in profit. So think about that. Only 6%, about 1 out of 20 wallets are actually in profit. The remaining 19 out of 20 are in drawdown. It's one of these things where, you really got to know what you're doing. Don't assume because you see the success stories on your timeline that this is something that you can easily replicate. It really is. It's the ultimate PvP arena, and you're going into a type of trading where the odds are incredibly stacked against you. It really is a casino, and my advice for anyone doing that is just to be aware of what you're getting yourself into. It's so easy. Every time this comes around, I've been in crypto for coming on 6 years now, and I've seen at least 3 major, what I would call, instances of meme coin mania, where something runs, it gets everyone excited about the trenches again, and everyone starts talking about it. And then you see the success stories are shot to the top of your timeline, but it's absolute survivorship bias. The vast majority of guys are not hitting those big successful numbers. They're getting destroyed, but they don't typically share their stories, and the algorithm doesn't push those stories, so you don't really hear about them. Just to be aware, I'm not telling you that never go trade meme coins. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying have a fucking realistic expectation when it comes to this thing. Typically, you will not succeed, right? And that can be said for trading in general, but at least trading perps, at least trading Bitcoin or NQ, the playing field is a little bit more fair, right? You're trading a liquid asset where skill counts for quite a lot, skill and analytical ability and execution ability. Not saying that isn't a factor trading on fucking FOMO app or whatever, but it's far more of a roulette wheel in my opinion. So just to be aware of that. Just to be aware of that. I'm not sure, does anyone on the panel have anything to add to that? If not, we will move on. Talking about LIT. Let me share my screen. That's not what I wanted, is it? Oh yeah, that's Ansem. LIT. So this is an interesting one. This is a paper trade long idea. I didn't take this, that I shared on stream last Friday. I had mentioned this on last Tuesday's roundtable. I had said that we had gotten a very nice break of structure here, and that you could potentially look for longs once we started filling this imbalance. I think it's a D2 or a D3 imbalance. And since that, very nice 7% pop here. Guys, we're talking about a break in market structure. I disagree. I think that this is the market structure, the blue dots that I've kind of highlighted here. I think that everything here is just internal structure and doesn't matter. In which case, we're looking at this high to get taken. I really like LIT. I still think that it's a coin that has some upside to go if the market allows for it, of course. I'm not in any positions here. As I said, this is just a paper trade. Curious to know whether anyone has been looking at LIT or trading LIT.
I'm not trading it, but I can share some thoughts.
Please do.
All right. Yeah, so I think we all watched it go up pretty wild over most of June and tail end of July. And now we've basically come back and are doing almost like to a T this move that I had drawn out on the chart from one of the mentorships a couple of weeks ago. But basically finding support in this weekly fair value gap, also retesting this monthly inverse fair value gap that we flipped from back here. So I think as long as price is above 224, I would be fairly bullish. You can even potentially see like a drop down towards $2, maybe tap that daily 200 EMA, which we haven't tested yet. But I would definitely be looking for these equal highs up here at around 277 and then 3+ in time. That would be kind of my vibe as long as price holds here.
Nice.
I like that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I also have a.
Go ahead.
I also can share my screen very, very quickly about LIT. Give me just one sec. Here is the chart. Yeah. Was looking quite bad a few weeks ago, but now I'm starting to like it again. We've put in a low here. We are inverting the structure, and we had a higher low here. So yeah, I'm just expecting. I don't remember exactly what you said, Jonesy, if it was 234 or 224, but I'm looking at 234 also. Basically holding this line, and if we can just do a higher high here and do a retest, something like this, then I expect the price to go there at some point around 275, at least to retest the level, because we have untapped highs just here. So yeah, kind of quite bullish on this one alongside hype. I don't know if you had hype also under your radar, but yeah, hype and leads are a good duo in my opinion. Just wanted to share that.
Well, hype is next on the list, so maybe you can talk us through your thoughts on hype.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Looking great. It's yeah, it's really looking good. Was a plan had a long time ago. Unfortunately, didn't retest the level. I hope it does, but I'm starting to lose hopes. Oh, BTC, nice. I'm losing hopes that it's going to give a $53 retest. I think we can get a pullback here. However, after we take the highs just here, we have equal highs at the moment. So I'm expecting, yeah, the highs to be taken, maybe a pullback, retesting the supply around here, the demand around here. But yeah, at the moment it does look fantastic. I don't know for how long it's going to perform like this. But if there is a reversal, I'm not ruling out a $40 retest. Obviously, it will require a whole market pullback, a broad market pullback. But if it does happen, then I still do have that level in mind, especially for spot exposure around $42, something like that. But yeah, looks great. Looking to see if we can get a $56 entry in order to target the highs around 76, of course.
And BTC has just tipped 65K as we talk. The Roundtable pumped,
naked
as
point of
always.
control.
I genuinely
Just,
feel like
still a bit higher.
we need to plot. We need to get an indicator for when we have these roundtables, because it feels like 75 or 80% of the time BTC pumps while we're chatting.
Pumps.
Let me share my hype chart through it. I have said a few times that hype is one of the coins that I'm extremely interested in buying spot, adding exposure to my long-term portfolio going into next cycle. Lots of guys have been asking me whether I'm buying here, whether I'm interested in buying in the 50s. I'm not. I still think that we will get lower, but of course that's predicate on my high time frame view, which is that the bottom is not in, even though BTC has just ripped, and I'm sure everyone's getting very bullish now. But my long-term plan has not changed. I still think that BTC bottoms later in the year or early next year, and I still think that it bottoms closer to 40K. At which point I think that hype and a few other alts will give some very nice entries. The entry that I'm looking for on hype is low 40s. I've said this a few times. I think we will get it. I'm reasonably confident. I think we will retest this channel low and at least give something like sub 50. I'm not terribly interested in buying here. I'm going to stay patient and wait for price to come to me, or maybe I'll get a front round for the second time, because as you guys know, the hype chart is a little bit cursed for me. I've been front ran twice on high time frame spot play. Sorry, down here I didn't get front round. I got stopped. But yeah, a little bit of a curse chart, but we will see whether that curse persists or whether it will be third time lucky. That's kind of it for altcoins, unless anyone has anything else to discuss. I know Zcash and Solana look kind of interesting, but I also want to move on. Unless anyone has anything to say.
Yeah, I really like virtual, but I already explained that one on my corner. Took a long on it and looks really nice.
Virtual is one that I spoke about as well, but for me, just waiting for that breakout before we do anything.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of the same. I took a scalp, and now with BTC pushing, it can finally break out, in my opinion, but not really there yet. I want to see several close below 60 cents to really get higher time frame bullish on it.
Gotcha. I want to move on now and talk about TradFi. So I want to talk about equities. Osborne mentioned that equities are pulling back now. I also want to talk about gold and silver. This is a chart that I shared on my channel. I really like gold here. We've had this push up over the last call it month and a half, about 10% off the low here. This to me looks like a potential reversal, and I would love to look for longs around 4.2K. This is what I've been saying for a few weeks now. We might not get them. We might not get that pullback, but for me, I would love to see this kind of be almost like a range breakout, right? So if you treat this as consolidation, treat this as your order block, your demand, this is the reaction, you get the break of structure, and now I want to see this inefficiency, this break or whatever you want to call it, get retested and something like that, and I would love to get long there. That's kind of my plan on gold. Silver is a slightly messier chart, but you can kind of look at the same price action on that chart too. Curious to know, well, maybe Osborne, you can talk us through the gold chart, and then maybe talk us through equities as well. You mentioned a pullback. You're
I
muted.
said, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
if you just allow me to share the screen. Perfect, thank you. So this is my gold chart. I think it's similar to yours, but it's the chart I had like probably for months now. We got the red level. Not changing my bias. I think we may have a short pullback from here. Expecting 4,000.1 to be retested at the very least in order to get on a swing long, because I then expect, if this level is holding, then I expect the resistance to break at some point and the rally and commodities to go higher, especially if we start to have concerns about inflation and about the tensions in the Middle East. Gold will remain the safe haven asset, and obviously it will capitalize on it. I want to capitalize on it and ride the trend to the upside. So yeah, that's my view. Quite simple, very very basic. We have a strong demand zone here. This is a supply zone. This is why I'm expecting the pullback. We have imbalance to feel lower. So yeah, just basic concept on this chart, but it's, as you can see, it's quite working well. Regarding equities, so I was showing the chart earlier. It's Nasdaq. So we had these highs. I thought my initial plan was to get a pullback and do an SR flip here, something like this. But it looks like a deviation at the moment. So the idea is to monitor anything like this, retesting the level and then going lower would have a wonderful pattern with a deviation, retest the previous high, and then go lower and target this level here. For S&P, I'm not quite sure because this one is really, really strong. If I look at the chart, I would say we may go there around 7.5K, but considering how strong it's been lately, I doubt we go that low, to be honest. But I keep that in mind. If it does happen, then fair, that's a good level to long in my opinion. And regarding Nikkei, so you can see that it's something that's happening on all indices, all major indices. Nikkei is also crashing, and I'm looking at the gray box to potentially try a swing long as well. The phenomenon, so what's happening at the moment, this decline is because of what I explained in my corner. We do have, you mentioned that earlier, the chart is indeed interesting, but we do have an upside move on yields, US yields. You see that the 10 years crossed 4.7 again, and the 30 years crossed 5.30, the highest since the subprime crisis, basically, which is absolutely crazy. Why now? Simply because of all the stuff we already talked about during the previous roundtables, in my corner as well on Twitch. We have underlying inflation. Inflation is still well anchored. It's quite sticky. The Fed is not really taking action to combat inflation at the moment. So obviously, participants are expecting inflation to remain higher if nobody does anything about it. And if inflation is higher, then naturally you're expecting higher yields. The second thing is about the debt issuance from corporates related to AI investments. We are engaging more and more and more debt, and at some point it becomes unsustainable. And if things roll over, then Obviously, it have a negative impact on the economy, and also the labor market has shown some signs of weakness the last few weeks, right? With NFP printing a very cold figure, the unemployment claims being higher than expected. So all these things are leading to what you see here on yields, and then the natural reaction when yields are surging is to have that kind of movement on risk on assets. And for some reason, then BTC is holding quite well, but I would be careful as well now that we just tag the resistance level. Definitely not the time to be bullish.
I love that. Yeah, I just shared my own chart with the US 10-year and the US 30-year. It's actually kind of crazy when you look at how, like, as you say, it's the first time since the housing crisis back in, like, whatever it was, 2008, 2009, that yields have been this high. Um, it's a tough one, and I know that one of the accounts that I follow on X, I think it's called like Kobayashi letter or Kobashi letter or something like that. They've been talking about this simmering bond crisis for a while now, and saying that it was at a point where it's going to really, really materially affect not just the U.S. economy, but the global financial markets in a negative way, and that no one's really talking about it, which is the dangerous thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's often something that first that retail don't pay attention to. That's the first thing. Institutions a bit less, but yeah, of course, when you have such high yields, you easily understand that it becomes unsustainable for governments, and here we're talking about the U.S. government to repay back its debt. So obviously, when shit hits the fan, then it hits absolutely everything, right, in front of it. That includes crypto, that includes equities, stocks, etc. When it's going to happen, and I think it's more a when more than a if. But to understand when it's going to happen is the difficult thing to do. Quite not easy, but yeah, it's definitely not looking good. And if the Fed is forced to act and hike rates, then obviously it will also have a negative effect on this because it will push the yields even higher, right? So for now, the yields are already high, but if the Fed hikes, it goes even higher. And considering it makes the situation bad, it will just make things even worse. And that's why the Fed is in a very, very difficult situation at the moment. Things they have not changed basically since Powell. When Powell was a chairman, the Fed was also in a difficult situation. The thing is, Powell didn't really care about what Trump wanted. Trump wanted rates to be low. So obviously the government would repay low interest. And also because he would be able to apply his fiscal policy and do tax cuts. However, the thing is, with high rates, you can't do these things, and I think it's still my opinion, and I would like to be proven wrong. But I think Wash is a little bit more sensitive to what Trump wants, so we may not see hikes, even though, and it's still in my opinion, even though it's probably the right thing to do at the moment, considering inflation, right?
Yep. That's interesting. We will talk about Warsh in a moment. Firstly, I want to see, does anyone else have anything to say about equities, particularly about S&P or NQ? Anyone have any charts to share? If no, that's totally fine. I want to quickly talk about SpaceX because this is something that I was asked to look at a few times recently. I don't have a huge amount of experience trading stocks, and by not a huge amount of experience, I mean effectively no experience other than like 3 very unprofitable weeks at the very start of my trading career. I don't have a lot to say about. Jesus Christ, are you okay, Purdue?
Yeah, sorry, I was laughing about you.
I don't have a lot to say about this chart other than to remind everyone that I posted the unlock schedule for SpaceX in my channel I think about 2 weeks ago, and you can see that there are tiered unlocks going forward for like the next. It's like for the next like 4 months, and then there's another one at after like another like 6 months after that, which is like Elon's 50% of shares or something like that. So there are unlocks nonstop for the next like 10 months. And I think that's going to be a lot of sell pressure to absorb, especially for early adopters, early investors, employees, guys who are sitting on potentially huge nest eggs. Um, my advice, if you're looking to snag some SpaceX for your long-term portfolio, your long-term hold, I would just wait. I don't think that this ticker is, I don't think that the bottom is in. I don't think that we're never going to see sub 100. I think that patience will pay with this thing. I think that it will eventually trade down into the double digits, and you'll get some nice buys, maybe around. I don't want to put a figure on it, but sub 100 for sure, between 50 and 100. At least wait until the majority of the unlocks have happened and that sell pressure has been absorbed. I think you'll get some very nice prices on this ticker then. Remember that this thing fucking launched at it was like the biggest ever IPO by a factor of like 10x or something like that. We covered all that when the IPO happened. This thing is arguably massively overvalued, especially for a company that has limited revenue streams. It is very much valued based on hype and the people behind it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it is something to be aware of if you're buying here at 140. We saw that in the first month alone, it dumped over 50%. Let's call it the first 2 months. I'm still expecting downside in this chart. Anything else to say about the SpaceX chart from anyone else?
Yeah, I can share some stuff real quick.
Please do, yeah.
All right. So I just want to draw similarities, like very reminiscent. I think of kind of what Coin did when it first launched, right? It basically went down, went sideways, pumped a bit, and then similar to what you're kind of talking about with SpaceX, we'll probably see like a deeper move down to the mid, somewhere in the teens, or maybe not teens, but like the double digits. And then I think when you get that range down there, that's when you can start looking for like, or on my side, I would be looking for like harmonics or something to form, and then looking for basically a trend reversal there to potentially run up and take the all-time high. So like here for now, I don't have many ice lines, but basically between 150 and 170 is like a little range. Right now, we're kind of getting capped there from the listing low. But like you said, I definitely think this is going to eventually go lower. Whether or not it comes up, fills some of this volume imbalance above. We could see that first, but I definitely would be waiting for like 20 to like 60 to potentially look for a higher time frame bottom to form. But I would wait for the structure and everything to kind of align with that. I don't think there's any need to rush into this. You're not missing much. So
yeah, it's I mean it's like it's the same thing on the LIT chart, it's the same thing on the pump chart, right? You get all these charts where you're in a strong downtrend and guys are just longing and getting stopped out, getting frustrated because they're longing into a downtrend. You always want to wait for that rounding bottom structure. When shit looks boring and no one's paying attention and then it gives you that little bit of upside, that's usually when you should start watching for longs and watching for potential buy opportunities. Last 15 minutes of the chat. Want to move on now and talk about the macro a little bit. We obviously have Jackson Hole coming up in under 2 weeks, August 27th to August 29th in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It will be Warsh's first Jackson Hole, obviously, and I think one of his first kind of major public speaking opportunities as the Fed chair, besides, of course, the last two FOMC meetings. As we all know, Warsh has kind of moved away very strongly from forward guidance, unlike Powell, who was more willing to tell us what we can expect and what we can kind of look out for. Warsh has pulled away from that approach a little bit. So I think this speech probably holds a lot because depending on what he says, it might come as a hawkish surprise, it might come as a dovish surprise, it might cause rate hike fears, it might give people a little bit more peace of mind when it comes to rate hikes. We don't really know. Osbra, our resident macro expert, what's your take on this? Is there anything to watch out for specifically? Can we predict at all what he's likely to say, or is it that just kind of the realm of idle speculation?
I think it's impossible to predict what he's going to say, because for now the only hints he gave us was that he wants to, how can I say, because it's not really give information, but he wants to share the bare minimum with the press and ultimately with us. So you talked about the forward guidance, it's gone, but also he wants to reduce the amount of FOMC meeting per year. So he really wants to reduce the flow of information he's sharing with us. So very difficult to predict if he's going to do the same during the Jackson Hole Symposium or not. However, I think he has to and he should, because that's a major event. A lot of people are waiting for that event to have guidance about the economy. That's the thing. So it would be extremely disappointing if he doesn't say anything. I think really has to. Um, Also, it's my bet. It's my bet, but I would see Waj being slightly hawkish during the Jackson Hole Symposium. If he, once again, I'm speculating. If he shares informations, I'm expecting him to be slightly hawkish. Why? Quite simple reasoning. It's simply because he said during the last FOMC, many times the Fed will reach the 2% goal. The Fed will battle inflation. We're going to put inflation back down, blah, 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 blah. And the reaction after the FOMC meeting from the journalist was, okay, but how exactly? Because you say, I'm going to do this, but you don't do anything. It's like saying, I'm going to go to Olympia and compete to IFBB, but I'm not hitting the gym. So how are you supposed to compete if you don't go to the gym, right? It's going to be very difficult. So that was the same reaction. And if yeah, I didn't know what to say, how to
I mean, I
explain it,
got
but
it, but
I
I'm
think
not
it's
sure did
really
anyone
obvious.
else get it.
Well, basically, if you want to be, I don't know, like a Schwarzenegger, but you don't eat the gym, right? It's going to be very difficult to have these big biceps. So yeah, it has to say something, and it has to at least tell us, yeah, now the Fed is willing to do this, something like that. You know, he is forced to do it. The problem is, it's still the same thing. The problem is, this guy is he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything. So it's very difficult to be excited. I'm really not excited about that event, to be honest with you.
Okay. And speaking of events that we should not get excited about, tomorrow we have the FOMC meeting minutes. These to me are always a letdown. People always talk about them, hype them up, and there is almost never anything interesting to glean from them or any volatility in the markets around these meeting minutes being released. I guess the question is this maybe a chance to look inside Warsh's head, or is it just going to be more of the same as what we got with Powell? It's just going to be a big nothing
Nah,
burger.
more of the same. More of the same. Because the goal of the FOMC minute is simply to explain the thought process of the Fed's decision for the previous FOMC meeting, and considering what we had during the previous FOMC meeting, then yeah, don't expect anything relevant on that reporting. I think it's going to be a nothing burger, like Purdy said.
Yeah, exactly. Want to move on now, and we will be wrapping things up ever so slightly earlier today for reasons I will explain at the end of the call. But I want to wrap things up by talking. Well, we'll talk about the Clarity Act, and then we'll talk about geopolitics very quickly. But the last macro issue is the Clarity Act. We're now down to 20% on poly market. You guys might remember we were up around the high 30s. We were up around, I think, even the low 40s at some points over the preceding few weeks, few months. So yeah, there are four factors driving this drop. The most obvious one, they still don't have the Democratic vote. crypto has become a kind of a bipartisan issue. Everyone associates crypto with Trump, and Trump has made like 1.4 or 1.3 billion dollars in the first 2 years of his second term, which, as far as I'm aware, that's more than he made in his preceding 60 years of his life, something like that. So this guy has enriched himself, has basically doubled his net worth this presidency, and that has left an extremely sour taste in the mouths of many, to say the least. Of course, there are still substantive issues around stablecoin legislation that have not been figured out yet. And yeah, it's kind of dead in the water a little bit. And the midterms are approaching. Does anyone have any hot takes on the Clarity Act, or is this just kind of something that is going to peter out and die, and people are just going to stop paying attention to it? Open
We have
question for the panel.
live reporter from the US. Jonesy should know, right?
I just trade the
I'm not
chart.
overlooking it, to be honest. I think people had too much expectations regarding the Clarity Act, and it kept being pushed away and pushed away. Also, it's something that the Democrats are weaponizing against Trump before the midterms, just like Iran is also weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz against Trump to make him weaker. I think that was a strategy elaborated at some point to delay the Clarity Act because there is the summer and the August recess, summer recess, if the name is correct, John Z. So it's pushed away, it's pushed back to September, early September, and the midterms are following right after. So yeah, I think it's just something that they're using to make Trump weaker. That's also why Trump desperately came with the capital tax gains cut. He knows who are his friends, and obviously they are the guys with a lot of money, and and they probably have a lot of money in the market as well. So yeah, it's just trying to please them because it's his only solution. Iran clearly stated that they're going to wait until he's out of the office to to be back to normal relations with the US. Well, normal, but at least regarding the Strait of Hormuz. So yeah, he is just being framed in my opinion, and the Clarity Act is just part of of that strategy to make him weaker.
And we did see, of course, over the weekend, I think it was, or maybe yesterday, there was reports out of Washington that the U.S. and Iran were close to a deal on Hormuz. Of course, immediately that was
Denied.
walked back by Iran. So it's like, it's a point that we've made before. It's like it's impossible to know what the actual fuck is going on, because you have both governments telling things that seem contradictory and making announcements that are immediately denied by the other side. It's just impossible to say really with any certainty what's going on, and that's one of the
Do
reasons
you
it's
think it's
been.
gonna be in the book?
What do you mean in the book?
Do you think it's gonna be like studied in the history books, this
Of
war,
course it will be.
US and
Yeah,
Iran?
the
It's going to
first.
be removed from history.
No, it will be. It will be. I mean, we're living history. I mean, that's one of the things you always have to keep in mind, is that the things that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. I mean, like 10th of October will be in finance books, I imagine, in some capacity in the future. But that's probably a topic for another day. The final point I'll make about the Clarity Act thing is, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Osbar. I think we obviously have this September recess or August recess, whenever it is. If they come back after that, like with an actual bipartisan agreement that people can kind of look at and go, okay, that passes the smell test, then I think, yeah, the roadway is clear to get things moving and get things approved before the end of the year. But if they come back and they're still arguing over the same fucking points, and they don't know, oh, whether we should include this provision, and oh, we don't know about stable coins, and the Democrats are still fighting every inch and every meter on the ethics of crypto and the ethics of enrichment from crypto, then I don't think. I think it'll get pushed to next year if that's the case. So remains to be
next year.
seen. Yeah, remains to be seen, guys. All right, there are 3 minutes left, so I just want to very, very quickly mention, and we're going to wrap things up now, that Jonesy and I will be doing a stream in 1 hour on Twitch and on X. This is a new show that I'm launching with Kraken Pro. It's called The Workshop, where we do deep dives into traders, their methodologies, their how they analyze the charts, what they look for, how they fucking trade. It's going to be very high signal, very high alpha. No fluff. So look forward to that. That's going to start in an hour. That's the reason we had the roundtable slightly earlier today. But I'm going to jump now, as will the rest of the team, because I need to prepare, as does Jonesy. So thank you very much for joining for today's roundtable. We had Purdue, Osbra, Jonesy, myself. Mikey joined, even though he didn't turn on his mic. Maybe we'll get him to voice stocks next time. Thank you very much for giving us an hour of your time, and we will see you in an hour for the first edition, the first episode of the workshop with the one, the only Jonesy. Thanks, guys. See you in an hour. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
See you guys. Bye-bye.